The Management Committee meeting here on July 26th. Nice to see everybody here. We've got a quorum, so we'll begin our meeting. We've got our agenda before us. We've all received this in advance. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, then we will move forward, and that agenda is approved. We also received the draft minutes from the Management Committee meeting of July 12th. Everyone again has received those in advance. Had a chance to read them. Are there any changes or edits to those? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the draft minutes from July 12th.
So moved.
Moved by Cedar. Is there a second? And seconded by Osmond. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed? That passes unanimously. We will now move on to our non-consent business item, and that is Council Property Insurance Contract Renewal. And I'll turn this over to Phil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, committee members. This business item is seeking council authorization to renew its property insurance from August 1st of this year to August 1st of next year in an amount not to exceed $4,300,000. Now, as you might have guessed, this property insurance provides coverage for damage to council property, buildings, contents, buses, trains, things like that. It also provides a coverage that is somewhat unique to the council. It's extra expense coverage. And that is coverage for expenses that we incur to continue our operations in the event of a covered loss. And the reason I say that's somewhat unique to the council, it's critical to the council because of the services we provide. We can't afford to be down. We can't stop our operations if we have a loss. We need to continue to treat the wastewater. We need to continue to provide transportation. This coverage steps in and provides expense for those extra expenses that we would incur. So it's a little broader than what you typically see, but it's something that's important just because of the nature of the service that we provide. So last year we switched from AXA XL Insurance to FM Global Insurance. We were with AXA XL for about 4 years, and prior to that we were previously with FM Global for 18 years. So FN gave us a very competitive quote last year. They came into, they were very familiar with the operations. They came into this with, hit the ground running, partnered very closely with our staff at the sites. Our staff just did a great job working with them to make sure we're in the best possible position to prevent these losses from happening in the first place. And that's led to the renewal quote that we have for this renewal. So when we got that quote from FN, we worked with our broker to a couple things. We wanted to make sure that the coverage that we had continues to be in place. There were no changes to that because it is somewhat unique to our operations. We then looked at the rate that they were giving us, and we wanted to make sure that the rate was not only competitive from a public sector standpoint, but also from industry peers. And FN provided a very competitive rate, and I give credit to what staff has done throughout the year, partnering with their loss prevention engineers at FM Global. It puts us in a position to really talk about what we have done with FM. FM is comfortable with taking on this risk. They're comfortable with partnering with us. And that's why we had such a competitive quote. So with that, Madam Chair, committee members, again, the request is seeking authorization to renew our property insurance in an amount not to exceed $4,300,000 for August of 2023 to August of 2024. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Are there any questions? And I think when you communicated in an email to me, that includes the increased property value across the council as well. 13%, I think you said.
Yeah, right? Madam Chair and committee members, how a property insurance premium is calculated, it is a rate times $100 of property value that you're insuring. Our property insurance the values are up 13%. And that's driven by inflation, it's driven by the cost of goods, plus this the cost of construction. So that does include that, yes, that increase.
Yeah. All right, no questions? All right, then we have before us the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorizes to bind coverage of its property insurance effective August 1st, 23 to August 1st, 24 in the amount not to exceed $4,300,000 with, with FM Global. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Osmond, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Pacheco. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That and opposed? No, that passes unanimously. So thanks, everybody. Good work, Bill. Really appreciate it. And this will be on our item tonight at the council meeting for approval as well. So now we'll move on to our information item today, and that is advancing equity, our Thrive projects in the region, and we'll get an update on that. So I know Marie, our acting chief financial officer, is listed here, but who's giving the report? Just making sure. Welcome, come on up.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Jen Zuhowski. I'm the Senior Manager of Workforce and Equity, representing Environmental Services.
Great, thanks, Jen. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm not really sure how to advance the slides. There we go.
There we go.
We received $400,000 to utilize for a career skills program where we're targeting BIPOC, persons with disability, and youth, so that we can build a career pipeline that represents the region, but also includes disadvantaged populations. At the present, we have not spent funds because we're working on an MOU with the unions that would be involved. So we're working with HR and labor relations, but we do have the program, the scope and recruiting selection process, and the strategies that we'll be utilizing to engage potential candidates, and we've already been doing kind of some sourcing and notifying agencies that this is coming down the pipeline. So that's one of our initiatives. We're hoping to start that October of this year. It looks like we've had some discussions with labor relations, and the union MOU is moving forward. So this one.
Were there any questions on that?
Sorry.
At all? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a career exposure program for painters. In environmental services, we do industrial coating, which is different than traditional painting that people might be used to. Of course, our painters still do painting of walls and facilities, but in terms of infrastructure and things like that, there's different skill sets that people need. To date, we have spent roughly $90,000. We brought on 2 painters. One was actually both of them were veterans, which we were really excited about. And again, this is one that focuses on BIPOC communities, women, veterans, and people with disabilities. One of the veterans was promoted to a full-time position, so they passed through the exposure and training program. And then we're currently recruiting 2 more painters that we're anticipating will start in September, and one of the candidates is a person of color, so we're really excited about that. And I want to kind of give some detail as well, that these are modeled and kind of tweaked from a apprenticeship program that we worked with HR and OEEO and labor relations on previously for our electrician apprentices, and we actually worked with the unions too. So these aren't traditional apprenticeship programs, but through that particular program, we were able to expose the same demographic of people to electrician work that's specific to water and kind of that industrial setting. And I can happily report that one of our apprentices made it through her state programming, and she came back and was hired as a full-time electrician. So while it is kind of a slow process, we are seeing progress, and we're looking at other areas in our division where we might be able to utilize a program just like this. So we're really excited for both of these that are coming down the pipeline and that we're continuing to work on, and other initiatives that we may be able to move forward.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yeah, Madam Chair, what organizations, community organizations do you work with, both for the study and the actual work that you're doing?
So for the study, we are using, we have internal programs, and there's also, I can't think of, the Sacramento State actually has a water program. And so we have a plant operator training program and a interceptor service worker training program that are currently under revision, and we have a cross-functional team. But a lot of the curriculum is coming from the programming there, things that we've seen that OEO and HR and Labor Relations have been able to help and support us with, and then also feedback from managers in terms of what the skill sets are and what the day-to-day work is. Community organizations, we've worked with Twin Cities Rise. Ramsey County is doing a stellar job with their workforce program, so we've reached out to agencies like that that have access already and databases built up. Schools, we've gone to grassroots organizations. Any place that will have us, we are happy to speak. And then of course the unions, we've been working really closely to get the unions to speak about the positions and the work. And recently, one of our electrician apprentices spoke at Ramsey County to talk about apprenticeship work, and the union was promoting apprenticeship work, and it was neat to see environmental services and particularly the council represented. So we're hoping to be an anchor agency in doing that work and really branching out. In terms of the painters program, we're working really closely with the union, and there's a lot of other programs that serve traditionally disadvantaged and marginalized communities.
Sure. Yes, I'm wondering, because I know Clues has a painting tile center program. American Indian OIC has a different program, and obviously some Academy OIC. And I just want to make sure that we're engaged with them as well, because all of them do great work, and they're specifically targeted at the population we're trying to serve.
Yes, and we've actually over the course of, well, it started before I got here, but I've been here for 7 years, and so I've worked with, and my team has worked with HR to build a database of organizations that we can reach out to, and we have partnerships with, and I know Clues is one that's been heavily utilized, but we definitely have a pretty widespread database and contact information. But if you have any other recommendations, we'd be happy to take those and make sure that we're inclusive of those as well.
The final one is, how have you engaged the Equity Advisory Committee?
We have equity change team and equity integration team, and I believe in terms of through our equity integration teams, which are like our equity change teams, they've shared information back and forth. Also in alignment with the work that's being done through the equity task force for the regional development guide. So a lot of times it's an update and info item, and folks from the EAC have actually come to us as well with recommendations or even to hear more about the programs and how they can support us.
And will they be getting this type of presentation too at one of their meetings where it's kind of bundled up and we're seeing how we're going in the big picture?
We can definitely. I know that there's been some protocol of working through our RA partners in OEEO, so that can definitely be something, or if you have a preference, we can work on that as well.
We have a council member who serves as the vice chair of the committee, and I used to be on that as well. And I just think that it's great that we are using them in various ways, but if they are looking for this kind of information, and a couple years ago I know they were, but things might have changed, but I think it's important to get this stuff in front of them so there's not that feeling of lack of information or not up to date on what we're doing. Okay.
Thank you so
keep
much.
going. Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's,
those are the
are there
two
any other
programs that
questions?
we're working on.
Are there any other questions at all from the committee? No. Well, great presentation.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Well done. Thank you for coming before us
for your
today.
time.
We appreciate it. All right. Next item. We're moving in. Succession to Local Housing Incentives Account Program. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. So I am Ashley Johnson. I am a planner in the On the Livable Communities Act team in community development. And today I am talking about our local housing incentives account, or LHIA, and 2 grant cycles where we received additional funding from the Equity and Thrive Fund. So LHIA is a development and preservation program for affordable housing. So the first grant cycle in 2021, we received $4 million, and all of that money has been spent. Our grants have 3-year terms, so as you can see, that'll be through December 2024 when these grants close out. So the additional $4 million that was allocated to LHIA allowed us to fund 6 proposals in Minneapolis, Edina, Rogers, St. Louis Park, and suburban Hennepin and Washington counties. And those 2 areas, there were scattered site homes. So the way that we measure our progress for this particular grant cycle was the number of rental homes and ownership homes funded, and then the total number of units funded. So if you could see, the first bullet shows that we were able to fund 345 additional rental homes and 19 ownership homes. And then the 34 homes were provided or were supported in the lowest income brackets, those that were at or who earn less than 30% of area median income. We preserved 113 units. And then a total of 557 units were funded. And these are multifamily and single family units in partnership with Minnesota Housing. And then overall, it was a 160% increase in units supported over the baseline funding level. And our baseline funding for LHIA is $1.5 million each year. So this was our largest awarded to date in 1 year. We were able to award $8 million total. Next, I will talk about last year's grant cycle, the 2022 grant cycle, when we were able to launch our affordable housing pilot, or affordable homeownership pilot. And this was very exciting for us and the team. It was $2 million, and we awarded all of that funding, $2 million, through December 2025. It funded 9 homeownership projects. We had 16 applicants for this program. And in previous years, we usually receive applications in partnership with Minnesota Housing, and we award about 4 to 5 projects a year. But this allowed us to fund 25 homeownership opportunities in addition to those that we funded with Minnesota Housing. And 5 of those applicants had not been awarded LHIA grants in the past 5 years. So we were really able to talk to communities that may have not felt that LHIA funds were either accessible or hadn't heard of the LHIA grant program, especially with so much staff turnover over the past couple of years. So we enjoyed engaging with new communities, and this pilot was able to move on to become a program this year. We hope to fund even more homes. So we brought the money in-house, the homeownership funds.
Good. Good, good. Are there any questions on either of these 2 items? Go ahead.
Ashley, thank you, Madam Chair. Could you just explain what goes into preserving affordable housing and what that is?
Yeah, through the chair. So when we say preserving affordable housing, that typically means acquiring existing home and then renovating it, and then reselling it on the market, or that's for ownership, or acquiring an existing apartment building, and then renovating that and saving the existing structure.
Thank you. That's great. Any other questions?
No, just a comment, Madam Chair, and sorry to be late. And thanks, Ashley, for the presentation and for the work. And I just want to know for all of us, and especially the newer council members, how much impact we could have with what is relatively a small amount of funding, but it was very flexible, and so staff and Ashley and the team were able to really focus these resources, and I just think that this is a really successful pilot, and I was part of which has become a program that will entertain funding in the 2024 budget, so good work.
Yeah, it's doing what it's supposed to.
Right.
And it was fun during COVID, seeing you on screen too, keeping us updated as to what was going on. It's more fun in person, but I just know too that, you'd mentioned too that during COVID it was just harder, staff turnover, just the way we all communicated, but it's good to see that, we're still very committed and moving forward, and your leadership on this has been appreciated. So, with that. Let's see. We have the equity audit next, and no? Welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Hi everyone, I'm Lila El-Tuili. I am the Council's Enterprise Equity Senior Manager. I lead the Equity Implementation Unit in the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity.
Hello everyone, Antonio Diaz. I'm the Manager of Engagement and Development with the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity as well.
Thank you.
We're here to talk about the equity audit. The equity audit is meant to evaluate our effectiveness around how we certify small businesses, our MCUBs and DBEs in particular. The audit the evaluation process is still underway, so there's a little bit that we can say at this time. Hopefully the next time we'll be able to give more. But we're hoping to dig into barriers that exist. We're hoping to dig into the effectiveness and our accountability measures. We're hoping to connect with our small business owners who are already in the program or who wish to be in the program to find out, what may be holding them back, and then what their experience is once they're here. And then, at that point, we'd be able to evaluate whether or not what we're doing right now fits in with what the council's overall goal is around small businesses. And then the report that will be provided to us from the vendor chosen, which will happen very, very soon actually, we'll be able to use that to make the proper changes to our policies and our procedures, and how we service our small businesses in this section.
Are there any questions? So just a couple of thoughts quickly.
Yeah.
It's good to see we're pushing on this, because I know when we were new council members, with the exception of Councilmember Barber, who's a legacy council member, we're now legacy council members as well. Ongoing. This and Councilmember Ferguson at the time was in this role, and we were really pushing on this. So I know COVID doesn't help any of our efforts as far as spurring it forward, but this is so important, and I would hope too that it's working with the federal government is an immense bureaucracy, and certainly even with the state, but we find at times in this work where there are barriers, but we don't control that barrier because it's a regulation, a rule, a mandate, or whatever. And if you can catalog those, that would be very useful, because I've said in our roles as council members, we have access to Congress people and others, and certainly the team members inside have access to, high-end staff people at all levels of government. But it's those types of things in real life that if we can get, the engine, turning in a different direction to break some of those barriers down that we don't control. Because I know we've asked questions here, especially as I was learning and others were learning, and you're like, well, there's nothing we can do because fill in the blank agency, it's just this way. So we want to be part of changing the just this way scenario if we ever can. So I think this is great, and I just wanted to make that comment. So,
Yeah,
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes, Madam Chair. I've read the RFP that went out for the study itself. I thought that looked really good. It had some great questions, ones that I'd like to have answered as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think the decision to go outside is somewhat different than what you've normally done, and that is more self-evaluation of where I am today. And so looking at the impacts you're having on small business, and also as the president of the Latino Chamber of Commerce, I deal with these things almost daily here. But so I'm looking forward to the report itself, and I'm glad it's moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. And yes, absolutely. And you usually ask Councilwoman Pacheco whether or not it's been to the EAC. It's absolutely been to the EAC. They had the opportunity to chime in and add their questions. But we're hoping, if we can gather kind of from a third party, right, from an outside lens looking in, gather what it is that we need to do, we'd be able to move it around the system so that we can make those proper changes, right, so that we can move it up to the council level, and then you all have the conversations that you need to have in order to make things happen internally for us. So that's our goal.
Right. Any other questions,
No,
Councilmember?
Madam Chair, just add another comment. Great, thanks for the work, thanks for presenting, and I'm really looking forward to the results of the study and then how this can be implemented across the enterprise. And when you look at the sector of businesses that we're focusing on, I suspect that we can have incredible impact in that ecosystem, in the small business, women-owned, minority-owned businesses, and that actually those are the kinds of activities that kind of reverberate through communities, and it will become known, if we're successful at this, that we are focusing on this sector of businesses, trying to increase the number of contracts that we have within this sector. So I just think this is really exciting.
Anything else? No, this is great work, and just keep it going. Race to the results, but in a methodical, well thought out way. I can't wait though to see. Hopefully, I live long enough. I hope Sometimes in government, you think, "Dear God, let me live long enough to see the impact," right? But I'm sure with your talents at the helm on this, we will. But we're just excited. Thank you. Okay. All right. Anything else on this one? All right, then we'll move to advance equity in the region through contract.
Probably the second.
Thank you guys for your great work. Welcome everybody. Just introduce yourself so all the people at home get to know who you are as well.
Yeah. Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Laura Vetter and I'm the Assistant Director of the Council's Procurement Department.
Madam Chair, Council members, Aaron Kosky, Senior Manager, Workforce Development. Hello again, Antonio Diaz, Manager for Engagement and Development with the Office of OEO.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. Robert Carey, Contracts Manager and Procurement.
Great, thank you for being here today. Who's going to start?
Madam Chair, committee members. Well, this was a collaborative effort between Human Resources, Procurement, and the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity. Procurement will cover the first portion of the grant we received, which was the financial incentives for exceeding MCUP goals. So financial incentives in contracts, essentially is where we provide prime contractors, additional incentives for exceeding the MCUP goal. So it follows the standard practice where the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity sets a goal, and then we allow contractors to propose or bid on that project and exceed the goal, and included in the contract is language saying if you exceed the goal for a major construction project, you will receive at the end of the project an additional $5,000 for each % exceeded. And then for professional services, you will receive $2,500 for each additional % exceeded. Now we did put a cap on this because we had a pool of money that we were looking to commit to these projects. We were able to find 4 projects and a variety, luckily. There was some structure put around what projects we could utilize. So we could only find projects with local funding. We also look to find projects with our partners in environmental services, Metro Transit, and then Metropolitan Transit services as well. And fortunately, we were able to find 4 great projects to pilot this on. 2 construction projects, one with environmental services and one with Metro Transit, and then 2 professional services contracts, one with MTS and one with Metro Transit. So far we have a total commitment 2 contractors of $92,500. So when I say commitment, I mean there's a commitment to provide MCUB incentive dollars in the contract. And the amount of anticipated additional commitment impact for MCUBs is $954,000 essentially. So it's over 10 times the amount that the management committee granted to us for this pilot project. So we're really excited about those numbers.
And that, excuse me if I may ask, and that's, just to clarify, that's money that would be in the pockets of MCUBs?
Madam Chair, committee members, that is correct. That is additional spend that will be in the pockets of our MCUBs.
Okay, great.
Robert Carey is also here if you want to hear any of the details on any of the projects, as his team delivered the solicitations and got the contracts executed.
Yes, Robert, if there's, some things that you'd like us to know a little bit more about, or some even things that you're going like aha moments, or, how it's going.
Yeah, thank you, Laura, Madam Chair, and committee members. So what we were able to do is recognize that by incentivizing these project types, and we looked at, as Laura mentioned, construction services, installation services of an art project at Lake Street that many of you might have seen, and then our professional technical services recently brought in front of, I think, the Transportation Committee was the Advancing Equity and Regional Transportation Project. We were able to see that the vendors and the vendor community were able to recognize that by incentivizing projects that might not have previously had a financial incentive, they were able to exceed goal commitments set by the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, and that there was not just a benefit to them, but a benefit to those MCUBs. And really, I think the big takeaway is often the work that's being subcontracted to the MCUBs for these projects are areas of service that are really their niche, that are their expertise. And so by giving more work and a level of effort to them, we're going to get a better work product or deliverable in our contracts. And so I think that was, if you're looking for kind of the aha moment, that would be it. The other is just the massive multiplier in the actual spend that we have. So that $92,000 committed for $900,000 excess of what the goal was with those MCUBs.
I just have a quick question too, so we're starting to grow the pool of people, companies that are working with them at council. Is there a way that we try to continue to communicate with them after the work is done? I mean, I think it might not be your job, but there's a story here, but it certainly would involve keeping everybody who's participated with us in these projects in the loop of being able to spread it into the communities, right? So that people know that there is opportunity and to help, just I think help communicate it more broadly to the region, but again, to help push to the contracting community and push to the minority community that these opportunities exist. And to Councilmember Pacheco's point, which he's made on many occasions and rightfully so, building that pipeline so that we've got enough people who can, fill this to the point where we don't have to have these programs anymore. That's the ultimate goal, right? Because we've just got awesome people, regardless of who they are, that are going to step up and be able to serve. So I guess it was more of a statement, but just so that we can capture these things, share these things with communications, and keep that group of vendors and contractors excited about working with us and showing our appreciation for what they're doing and all of that. I know we don't do awards, programs, and all that, but I mean, the folks that are stepping up and agreeing to do this and making it happen, they're definitely partners in the work, so I just appreciate it. Councilmember Seaver.
I just have a comment too. It's kind of an exponential lift, long term is companies are spending more with MCUB firms, getting their base of experience bigger, helping them grow, which then can help them go after bigger contracts and bigger pieces of contracts and bring other people along as well. So it's a really can be an exponential lift. It's more than just this project. It's going to be continuing on for those companies and other projects and other teams as well. So I can just wanted to make that comment that it's not a stagnant one time. It's really an exponential growth that has that possibility.
And as we're doing the work, you know, when you disaggregate data, right, and you just see all of the different communities that, you know, have potential to do this work, are we seeing it across the board in communities, or is it concentrated in one area or another? Are we tracking that kind of thing too, to make sure that, you know, whatever your background is, you know, you've got a shot, or we're reaching into that community and having success?
Yeah, Madam Chair, committee members, part of our efforts in procurement is to ensure that our outreach is reaching our targeted audience or our targeted vendors. And so we work with the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity as well as other partners within the council to make sure that we're hosting things like meet and greets or mixer events or informational sessions in advance of our pre-solicitations. Another concept that we've adopted is to forecast our projects. So we present a list of our projects, the project types, and the values of those projects, so that, and what we found is that this allows for those subcontractors, those targeted businesses, to be able, that have potentially maybe a smaller capability, to be able to predict what projects they might want to participate in with the council and partner with Prime Sign for those projects in advance of the solicitation.
And I think that when we get the contracts let, then seeing of all of the outreach we did it represent then who we actually hired?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, just to add to Robert's point on, our unit is actually the ones that does the meet and greets. So on average, we do anywhere from 2 to 3 meet and greets on a monthly basis. And the whole purpose of meet and greets is for a small, in this case, small certified businesses, MCUBs, meet with different units, let it be transportation, environmental services, to know more about the contracts and the opportunities they have available, but also for the MCUBs to expose their work, right, their business. So it's a great tool that you know, we've been doing it and pushing a lot with the different units here at the council, and it's been successful as well. Other things that we've been done with our office as well is trying to be active in the community in terms of the events that are happening. So for instance, one example I can give you is, I think 2 months ago, we were part of the Henderson construction event, which was co-sponsored with the Henderson County, but it was basically to promote the construction contracts that are available within Henderson County, but also with the council, right? So our unit was there to, actually was in partnership with the procurement team. We were there to promote the contracts and all the logistics of all the contracts that we have in the council and whatnot. So another event, the procurement setback event, I think it was a month and a half ago as well, that it was sponsored by the Department of Transportation and Administration as well. We were there. Again, but I also do want to acknowledge that there is space for growth. You know, we're trying also our best to connect with local chambers, let it be with every community, but also with community-based organizations to be the person as well and promote all the contracts that we have with the council, and the ones like Robert was saying, the forecasting ones as well. So businesses are aware in terms of what's going to be happening within the next couple months, so they're better prepared. So when the time comes, they have a great opportunity and to compete for those master contracts as well.
Great, thank you. Oh, Councilmember Pacheco, did you have something?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. There's, I was looking at the contracts as the larger contracts. What are we doing to engage even subcontracts to our subcontracts? Or, you know, so we have a number of businesses that can do the job. They don't have the capacity of the bonding capacity. They don't have the administrative capacity, but they can do the job. And so they're great candidates for the subcontract with somebody doing these programs. I mean, yesterday I had a meeting with a company that does landscaping, basically. That's through my role as the Latino Chamber. And rather than asking for employees, which everyone does right now, everyone's looking for employees, he said, I'm looking for entrepreneurs. I want somebody who wants to start a business in landscaping. We'll provide the trucks, we'll provide a contract. But if they had that, they could put their own program together, they hire their own people. Therefore, you're supporting a bigger effort, if you will, and that's what they want to do. And we're meeting with them again. And then there was another example of what it was the Department of Transportation a couple years back. I don't know if they do it. So they have the corner cutouts where you ride your bike over the sidewalk and on the corner you go down and stuff. So over the summer, they're committing to do so many of them. Well, they bundle them, so Crew's contract, for example, could have 10, 20 or 15 or whatever, but then they build their capacity to work with the Department of Transportation. Everyone gets the work done, and that's a great contract over the summer for a small business. So I'm sure what we're doing in these areas to be a little bit more creative in the sense of it's not just tracking what we're doing today, but really how do we build that capacity within the communities? Because again, whether you're looking for an employee or looking for work to get done these days, everybody's in competition, and this is our time. We're not looking at affirmative action. It's not a quota. It's what we can do to build the capacity.
So, great points. Councilmember
Yeah,
Williams.
Manager, thanks. And remember, I have a question on one of the projects that you referenced. It was the art project on Lake Street. Is that the I-35W transit station mural that you're talking about?
Yes, Madam Chair and Councilmember Wilgren, that's the I-35 Lake Street station, and it's the mural that is kind of underneath the platform that it sits on 35.
Thank you. And so I just traveled through that yesterday. I'm bringing home from the meeting. I used to live right around the corner from that. Well, it wasn't a gorgeous transit station then, and this is stunning, and it is transformational, and I would encourage everyone, if you get a chance to go. It is. It's eye-catching. There's reflective material in the mural, and it was, having lived there when it was a scary little tunnel under the bridge that you had to go through, and having been part of the design and everything when I was on city council of the station, it was just something we should all be proud of.
Yeah, in addition, Councilmember Pacheco, the question that you had around how do we create subcontracts for the subcontractors. One of the ways that we'll look at doing that is we'll unbundle or debundle and then debundle again so that we can continue to offer the right size project scopes for those smaller businesses. So like you mentioned, 10, 15 curb cutouts as a project scope of work rather than, for instance, bundling 10, 15 curb cutouts times all of the locations across a transit line that might have to do that. And so you would reduce that barrier to that smaller business. And we've been seeing a trend with our business partners for what we're calling smaller construction projects. And those are projects that we identify under $175,000. And it's typically more in the summertime. And so we do see results of those outcomes being that they can be primed by a MCUB or a DPE, which you were speaking a little bit to, or the partnerships that they're able to create allow for smaller MCUBs or DBEs to be the subcontractor that may not typically have been if it's a bundled project.
I see Ashanti's joined us, so that's good news. We've got everybody showing up. This is good. Ashanti, would you like to add to this great conversation?
Yes, Madam Chair, Council Committee members, Ashanti Payne, Assistant Director, Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity. As hard as I try to not say anything, I don't want to be remiss and miss the opportunity because you did mention in terms of the connections that council members have with legislators, and having been at MnDOT and played an integral part in creating that program that Councilmember Pacheco spoke of, MnDOT is operating under some legislative authority that they have that we do not have at the council. So that would be something that we could look into because it's not specific to small business. I think it's under either 16A or 16C. It's not specific to small business or the demographic that we attempted to target through that MnDOT program, but it was a creative way to use that legislation in order to do that. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't let that go by.
So I would say this: we're going to, we're not out of scope here on our, but this is good, right? We don't get to do this as much as members of this committee to dig deep like this. So if you wouldn't mind, connecting with government affairs through the system I would just like, and have it come back to this committee maybe, and if it could be part of our legislative agenda in some way, if it didn't, violate or freak anybody out somewhere else in the whole system, but it would be nice. That's the kind of the inside intel and the work, the experience you bring. If we can, get some changes to state law that would expand our opportunities here, that'd be great. So I mean, I'm interested. I think everybody else is interested in that. We'd put our stamp of approval if it all came about, and we could get it done, and then we'd contact our leaders to tell them to do that. We would name it after you. So, no, but those are the kinds of things. Each one of you is bringing your individual expertise and experience to this, and a lens to try to figure out, how do we get through all of this. And I know it's not easy, but I think, we've got a really good team in place, and we're going to keep putting pressure on all of you, because that's just the right way to go about it. So ending with pressure on you, is there anything else? Positive pressure, yes.
Madam Chair and committee members, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to pilot this project, and thank you for the grant funds for this project. We're really excited about the results.
Yeah.
So the leverage was amazing.
Exactly, which was the point, right? And then, and I don't know, if there's ever a story to tell that the full council could hear at some point, maybe at a council the whole meeting or something, and a lot of us obviously can share it, but it's good work that we're doing, and again, I think that if the greater region knew about what we were doing more broadly, we're still in the trenches, but I think we're moving in a good direction, and so I just want everybody to know about the good work you're doing. Councilmember Barber, and then Osmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a follow-up on a conversation we had at Transportation Committee on Monday. The conversation of where is our discretionary spending? It's this stuff. This is where you meet the priorities and what we do. And I think that broader conversation is a good thing to have as we're entering the budgeting cycle, because these are things that we're trying that are new and different, and actually see the works, things that are outside the box.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Great comments.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you. This is a beautiful program. As I understand, it's a pilot program. So if there is any plan that we keep continuing, or it's just for the time being, this is one-time program. This is showing now it's really successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that question, Madam Chair, committee members. I know on behalf of procurement, we would love to see this program continue. That may not be up to us, but certainly the support here at the management committee, and we have our finance department here, so I don't want to say too much, but I think we're looking at some large impacts with a small amount of spend. I certainly think it would be something that we would like to move forward in continuing.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, committee members, just to follow up on that, I will say that this is a part of a larger discussion that we've had at the executive team. This is obviously a part of our strategic plan for the entire council. There's a lot that we have been doing. There's a lot that we can do. I think the more we have those discussions, to your question, Councilmember Osmond, we should have that discussion. We should take a look at maybe take this out of the pilot phase, what we can put into our operations, of course keeping finance in mind. But whatever we can do to move that needle on our strategic plan and get the council to meet these objectives even more so, it's something we're continuing to have those discussions at that executive level. So it's a great question. It's something we're taking a look at.
Madam Chair?
Councilmember
Thanks. And to that, it is a great question. I usually ask that kind of a question too, so I'm glad that you did, Councilmember Osmond. And so then to move it out of pilot into operations, we would see this as part of the 2024 budgeting process or not?
Chair Johnson, Councilmember Lilligren, as part of the 2024 budgeting process, that's a discussion we'd have to have at what the right timing might be based on what the financial impact would be. But I think it's something we need to start talking about, how we can put that into the budget cycle and make sure we can put that in. Because it's an objective that's clear in our strategic plan when you look at that. It's very clear.
And there's momentum, that's the point.
Yes.
For sure. I'll go to Pepper and then Sigurd.
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, you've heard of the mechanic apprenticeship program. That is something that started out of a small, very small actually, equity grant many, many years ago. That just ultimately became part of the budget because it was so successful. Sure. And it's just finding the timing of when that makes the most sense. But this is an opportunity to kind of try these things and then things works. And I mean, like I said, low expense for big payoff, which tends to be the results that we see with some of these things. But yeah, it just becomes part of the budget.
Member?
And Councilmember Langdon said the same thing about let's not lose momentum. And that's why I think, there's been time invested in trying this, getting metrics, learning about it. And so I hate to see a gap where then people have stopped putting effort into it and need to restart it. It costs more than it does to maintain or grow. And I think that fits as part of our strategic plan to not lose that momentum. Because everybody knows what happens when you set a project down for sometimes even 2 weeks. You go back and you have to recreate the wheel all over again. And that costs time and money, and people's thoughts are someplace else. So that would lend toward trying to keep the momentum going on programs that are successful like this.
Very true. Councilmember Pacheco.
Madam Chair, members, not only momentum, but there's so much has changed. If you look at the legislature, the diversity in the legislature, diversity in this body, and I was on this body 30 years ago, 32 I think it was, and we were talking about affirmative action.
He was 10 at the time.
And so we were talking about affirmative action. We're talking about discussion about possibilities and how it's integrated and where we bring it in across the board. And I think that's where we're at today. And so that saves us some time, if you will. And I think the legislature's been active, and obviously the One Minnesota has been helpful in these discussions. And I think we're in the right spot and that's in the right time to get some things done here.
And if others could get there too, I honestly don't know what others are doing. That's my thing. I'm sure there's a lot going on, but it will then impact housing. People make more money, become more successful, have more options in life, right? So it's an investment in so many things that again go to our upcoming 2050 plan for sure. So. Yeah.
Chair, if I may, this is a good. When I think back to the last committee meeting we had, we talked about the work plan, we talked about identifying things that you would want to see on a regular basis, identifying maybe what that metric might be, how do we measure that. This is a really good example. What we had, the presentations today, this was the second part, the first part was last committee meeting. We've committed to come back, I think, on an annual basis to provide updates. But if there is a time when you want to see more information about this or you want to see updates on a more frequent basis, this is exactly the type of information that I was referring to when we talked about taking a new look at the work plan. How do we get that information in front of the policymakers? How do we report what we're doing? Are we going in the right direction? Are we having the impact that you thought we might have when you approved these grants? So we're committed annually, but if you want to see something more frequently, or something comes up that there's a question that you want to see a presentation on, we can bring that up and get that on the agenda. But I just wanted to tie this back to our discussion at the last meeting about the work plan. So I think it really ties in with that.
Absolutely. And I would say, again, we are hearing what you're doing, and then we get reports too, that we have to submit to the federal government, or at the end of a project, we're wrapping it up to see did we hit our goals. But just based on this too, the numbers, that 10 times factor is a big deal. And I would just say, working with your bureaucracy here, I say that with love. If you've got something super exciting that you are like, oh my God, I wish they knew, just check in, because we want to hear those things, right? We want to keep that excitement and enthusiasm going. And I would also say, if you hit new barriers, don't, wring your hands, think, oh my God, now what do we do? We're here to support you and empower you and give you resources that you need. We've said that whether it was public safety or housing or what have you, transportation, right? We are working with you as your partners in all of this. And I think annually is good, but it is fun to get the mid-course updates, and kind of feel where you're at, and to see how committed you are to everything. It helps us to track year-round with it too. So we'll get on a good schedule and a good pace with this group. But you guys are doing a great job. And yes, what would you like to say? I thought you were pulling the microphone over, maybe.
Madam Chair, Councilmembers, I'm ready to talk about the second prong.
Yes, okay, yes.
Equity grant.
Yes.
You mean to cut it off?
No.
It's a very impressive accomplishment that you're going to have.
Yes.
The second prong, the second project, is really to help our council contractors diversify their workforce of union construction jobs. Many of you are probably aware, if you have state funds to have for a capital project, the Department of Human Rights assigns workforce goals for those contractors. 32% people of color, 20% female. They're not the council employees, but we found a way to influence and help encourage the diversification of the construction union workforce. About 6 years ago, we started a collaboration with the Minnesota State Building Trades and created a pre-apprenticeship program called Building Strong Communities. Over the last 6 years, this program has become 100% solely owned by the State Building Trades and has had over 125 individuals enter the variety of union construction trades. 85% people of color and female. So how we're trying to impact and have benefit come to the council is by providing a reimbursement for our council contractors, whether it be prime or sub, to reimburse when they hire a Building Strong Communities graduate as an apprentice working on a council project. Now, this is a very innovative approach that I don't think has been done in the region or beyond. A lot of effort from this department as well as general counsel. But we did have the ability in the last year and a half to enter into 4 contracts that covers 6 apprentices, again, all women or people of color. And basically they have performed over 4,500 hours on council construction projects, ranging from the light rail extension to interceptor service projects. So we reimburse the contractor. Why? Is because we recognize taking on a brand new apprentice, brand new, it reduces productivity. It requires additional hands-on the job training. So this is really a tool we've employed to recognize the additional costs it does to take on these brand new apprentices. So we reimburse the contractor on those hours spent. We cap it at 1,500 hours per apprentice. And there's a monetary cap of around $11,000. So to date, again, 4 contracts supporting 6 apprentices, 4,500 hours, and approximately $25,000 going to those contractors for their efforts.
That's great.
Want to again say thank you to procurement for creating this innovative program. I don't think this is very simple to do. And believe it or not, we've ran into some barriers trying to get the contracting community to understand that this is money that is available for you. It's hard to give away money sometimes. But I think like this project, one before, this has the potential and the promise to really provide that extra juice, if you will, to get contractors to take more chances on bringing in non-traditional apprentices for the construction crews.
Do we get feedback from the apprentices after they work at any given project to see how their experience was? And I'm just hoping they're welcomed and they're committed to, and they have a very positive experience, and that would be my hope. But I mean, I'm just wondering what's their feedback as they're going through the process.
Madam Chair, council members, yes, in the contract we have with the contractors, we have the ability to not only take the appropriate documentation, but the ability to go on the field, interview the employer and the apprentice. And we had the chance to do that a number of times. I want to say that this past week, I spoke to one of these apprentices who was one of the very first Building Strong Communities cohorts, and he is just graduating. He's been 5 years as a sheet metal apprentice. He works for Burwell on our light rail extension project and spent over 1,500 hours on that project. And he is so proud of his accomplishments. And yes, that's a very gratifying extra step, is to hear just how important this work is and how much their life has changed and their family's life has changed.
I would say, you know, if there's ways in the future for the council to meet some of these people as they are successful in their programs. I mean, we celebrate all kinds of things here at the council when people are doing great things with their lives, but we, you know, I think just want to extend our thanks to the contractors, certainly the staff for putting this together. I know it must have been very difficult, and that's probably not even emphasizing enough how difficult it was. You know, again, just these are invaluable stories, and hopefully we can, you know, exponentially continue on so that one day we don't need these programs anymore. Councilmember Lilligan.
Yeah, just a comment and then a question, please, and thanks for this. And I think part of the success story here, and I support, I think we should bring these stories forward. I think that's important. And part of it is with the building trades unions themselves. And I know in my now, 23 years in public life, that's been a priority of theirs. And they understand that their system doesn't necessarily organically cause that to happen. And so it seems like we've hit on a formula here that's really working. And so I'm not surprised that they're supportive of it, that they participate. And so that's part of the success as well. We're penetrating a difficult to change culture.
Yeah.
And then the question is, and it's for you, Aaron, when you say we reimburse the contractors, is that, up to the caps, do we fully reimburse the wage for that worker on the project? Is that what you mean by reimburse?
Madam Chair, council members, we have a reimbursement table, if you will.
Okay.
It is not the wage, it is a set amount. Okay. And it increases every $500.
Okay.
I believe the initial $500 is $8 an hour reimbursement that it climbs up.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager.
And maybe not for now because we've got to watch the time, but how are the building trades funding this program? I mean, significant investments there, I'm sure.
Madam Chair, council members, the state building trades actually voted to issue a assessment on all the 13 participating construction building trades.
Wow.
So it is quite a commitment, and I support that observation that it's not an easy ship to turn around, but there are committed individuals who are making a difference.
That's great. Anything else? Well, thank you for being here today and sharing all of this important information, and keep going. Oh, we have one more?
Just one
I'm
quick
sorry.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, just a quick thing.
Okay.
On the third initiative, building capacity for income businesses, just a quick note on that, if I may. Our office OEO has been working closely with the procurement team over the course of the last couple of weeks to put an RFP together, number 23P043, for a series of support services and trainings for our MCUPs to prep them better to compete for master contracts. Just quick, the 5 serious areas that specific contract has is construction safety training, how to estimate and bid, how to respond to a request for proposal, understanding the process of change orders, business consultation / one-on-one technical support. The RFP was released this past Friday, the 21st, so we're going to start doing the outreach engagement. Well, we have started, but we're going to continue doing the outreach and engagement. It closes on the 30th of August, and we're going to be having a pre-bid meeting on the 9th, Wednesday the 9th. So just wanted to mention that. I don't know how much time I have to answer any comments, questions, and concerns, but I also welcome any comments, questions, concerns, or anything that you might have. Reach out to me directly, and or I can also come and share more details on the follow-up management meeting as well.
This is great. Any questions? Well, first of all, thank you to all of you, and we want you to stay here for your entire career. You're doing a great job. We're very grateful for all of your hard work, and we can tell that you're passionate about this, and just, your offer to, give us more information or meet with us or, answer any questions that might pop in our head afterwards is much appreciated. So this was very good information, appreciated. It helps, we know the money's out there, we have a sense, we've given the direction, but to hear each one of you talk about where we're at is important for us as policymakers. Thanks to everybody who's working on this, we appreciate it. All right. That really brings us to the end of our agenda. So without any other business to come before this body, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.